So next, I will invite my colleague, our Chief Growth Officer and President of Perfect Corp America, Wayne Liu, on stage.
Thank you, Louis. I've been working with Louis for 17 years. Yeah, it's a long time. So I'm so delighted to see everybody's here, and welcome again. And we have a record-breaking attendance. I guess probably like 500 people or something, record-breaking. The reason why you're here, because we are experiencing a seismic transformation. So Louis to talk about paradigm shift. I will make it even more dramatic. Okay, so seismic shift. Okay, so something used to work, it's not working anymore. SEO. Something you think is still far away, right now it's your doorstep, like AI. So we are actually in the best of the time, and then also in the worst of the time. So remember that quote from Charles Dickens, and follow on that is, we are at the age of wisdom, and we are at the age of foolish. So today, it's my true pleasure to have someone to share the wisdom of digital beauty transformation. I'm so happy to invite my guest, who is not only the most influential people in the digital beauty, but also my longtime friend, Angelica Munson, who she is the global chief digital officer. Okay, because I'm so excited, and and being her tenure in the Shiseido, she actually being the chief digital officer and also the president of the Center of Excellence and also the SVP of the e-commerce. So they'll have a welcome, to Angelica to be with me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nice to be here.
Yes, please. I'll see here.
Hi, everybody.
I'm so glad to be here.
I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I started my career at Shiseido in New York City, and we started the Center of Excellence here in 2016. So it's great to be back. I now am an expat living in Tokyo, working with our marketing teams, our technology teams, and our digital teams. And one of our very trusted partners since 2017 has been Perfect Corp.
Yes, it's been a long time. So Angelica, as I said, she actually is being like a witness and also orchestra some of this the AI project transformation. And then amazing thing is, it's about 2 years ago. 2 years, it doesn't seem like a long time. 2 years ago, 2023, actually Angelica is in the WWD Digital Forum, and Jenny B. Fine is interview Angelica. I still remember the last question Jenny B asked. Say, hey Angelica, there's something called ChatGPT. How do you think about that? So it's only been 2 years. How many people are using ChatGPT now? Almost everyone, right? So think about this. That's why I said it's a seismic shift in the beauty, not only the beauty, but also the entire industry. So probably just share with us some of the most exciting AI development you are working on now.
So yeah, that was, you have such a good memory.
Yes, yeah.
And yes, ChatGPT, I'm using ChatGPT right now, no. I would say what I'm seeing in this space, I think beyond AI, because artificial intelligence is a tool, and I think all of us actually, before even generative AI and now agentic AI, we've been using foundational AI daily, recommendation engines, personalized product pages. We've been using Amazon for many years. So one thing that when we speak about AI at our organization, and Shiseido, as many of you know, is a 154-year-old enterprise with over 30 brands, and many of those brands are in Asia. So when we think about AI, we know we've been on this journey, and we've been on this journey definitely with e-commerce. So now here's a new chapter, and again, AI is a tool, but we look at it more of an organizational capability. And in one of our earlier conversations prepping for this, you asked me, what are the consumer trends? because really it's about that consumer in the center. And what we are finding, like many of you in this audience, is that personalization is not a perk. It's not like an extra, it's a baseline. And all of these tools is essentially tailoring that hyper-personalization for the consumer. And now it's better than ever. It's real time, it's grounded in data, and you need to definitely train your organization, your e-commerce teams, your personal beauty associates, which are beauty consultants. That's what we call them at Shiseido. And what I'm seeing is efficacy is so important because you have to see that the products work, but it's transparency. So where can AI help you in not only tell you what to buy, but the consumer, like why to buy it?
Yes.
And I think a lot of the images that Louis showed, gives you that proof to the consumer of what it is that you're recommending. But I think in beauty, we also use AI to explain the why.
Yes, absolutely. That's why I said the words of wisdom. You talk about AI in a very different level. Because when we look at the AI, so you start with the corporate training. That's exactly what we need to see, like the 3 anchors, right? So you have to have a knowledge, and then you have to have a consumer to have a motivation, and you need to have an organization to support. It's a KMO, right? So you cannot miss any of them. So that's why we are not just talking about AI, we need to talk about how to practice AI, especially education inside the organization. That's amazing. Okay, and some very depressing news here. Based on the very conservative research from Gartner, it said like 50% of the AI project fail. And then the even more pessimistic one is from MIT. MIT said only 5%. So corporate pilot success. And why are we here? Everybody talk about AI, but it's only 5% success. Okay, so it's really pessimistic. But I believe the number is number. It's about average. If you want to be that 5%, which can be success, you have to have some tricks, right? So some knowledge. So can you share with us some of this AI project which you orchestrating and it's successful, and why it gets successful?
I think I read that MIT study, and I think you have to double click on the headline. And I think not necessarily that the projects fail, but they just haven't scaled yet. And in many of our organizations, sometimes it's one team, and it's not necessarily an end-to-end understanding of the power of this technology, this evolution of this technology. So the first thing I would say is, part of my role is to educate our employees, from people in HR to finance to digital frontline. And one of the things organizations, brands can do is make that concerted effort for education. We have something called the Digital Academy, and in the last 9 years, we've had over 10,000 students come through the academy. And I remember one of our first courses were the basics of e-commerce, because e-commerce was a threat to, say, brick and mortar or certain retailers, and now it's just part of the journey. And so I believe that this technology and harnessing this technology needs to be taught at the basic level to not just the digital frontline, but everybody. Because again, your legal team needs to understand what it means for privacy laws. Your HR team needs to understand what it means in terms of the hiring of your next generation of workers. Marketers who might have been with you, and definitely at Shiseido, where people have been in marketing or certain roles for over 20 years, that's change for them. So change management is really important. So again, education is first. And I love the slides that were shown before, because it really breaks down the use of AI, generative AI for the right use cases. And coming to conferences like this helps educate yourself, and you can bring that back to your teams. Big organizations, small organizations. So I would say the first thing is education is really important, and the pace of evolution is daily. I'm sure you're getting so many newsletters, I know I do, and you have to parse through it and make sure that you're understanding what the goals are for your consumer, what the goals are of your brand, and what type of next generation artificial intelligence tools can help you. And the second thing we did was we made a very concerted effort to say, there's no one person that owns artificial intelligence in your organization. Everybody is a part of it. So what I did was just facilitate a cross-functional team, the chief people officer, chief creative officer, chief marketing officer, a lot of different people from supply network to come together to talk about what are those pain points. And again, our portfolio is over 30 brands, multiple regions, countless markets. And what you do is when you're asking people, what are you trying to solve for? You're finding the same themes come up. Content production, saving money in this capacity. How can a digital twin help me, look at packaging, et cetera. And by doing that, you can really start road mapping what are the important things and where do we need to maybe find a partner or maybe a hybrid solution, kind of build an internal team. So that's how we've started. And as I mentioned before, some of the very tangible pilots are definitely SEO, because EO is so important now that people are utilizing chat services to solve problems. And not only, they integrate beauty, but they're integrating wellness, they're integrating travel, weather, et cetera. So those are the things we're doing, and we're also experimenting with agentic services in customer service. Can smarter multimodal opportunities unlock better conversion in customer service?
Yes, absolutely, especially for this multimodal, right? So that's a very hard work. You combine lots of things together and put into the AI engine to make it happen. We will go back to that later. But let's dig a little bit deeper here. Okay, so do you see any, I give you a cue. Do you see any successful project with AI? With the Perfect Corp.
With Perfect Corp, well, the beauty about Perfect Corp, and I think a lot of you have been clients or you're thinking about expanding your services with them, you can't always build everything in-house. And it's hard, definitely, to get talent. And I think this picture, if you forward the slide, is, we have been with Perfect Corp for many years now, and we're in over 30 markets with about 10 brands. And what we're finding is obviously conversion is higher because it's real-time proof of, and it also helps not only the consumer self-serve, but it's helping our beauty consultants in terms of walking somebody through the endless possibilities. So for us, it's an emotional pain point to find your right foundation. And I think that it sounds something so maybe not monumental in your day, but beauty is your skin, your face first. So when you're shade matched properly, and again, this changes with the seasons, you're really putting your best foot forward. And I think in beauty, that's like the power of feeling good, looking good. It makes you confident. And I think something as maybe as simple as finding your right foundation with a tool like Shade Finder has really given our brands more resonance with the consumer. It builds trust with the consumer. So we continue to do this, and the beauty of the tool is that it is turnkey. You can have it in-store, in-app, on the website, and we'd love to continue to experiment now with all the roadmap that you're developing.
Yes. So I guess one of the things which I catch from your the conversation here is when you do AI project, you really need to do with a purpose, right? You cannot just say, it's called a shining object syndrome, right? Because it's AI here, AI there, I need to catch everything. No, actually you have a single purpose, or like this one, just to serve a customer, right? To help them to match the right shade. And you start thinking about using AI. And you start thinking about educate internally. And you start thinking about how you deploy that. So with that core, why we want to use AI, and you start to expand it into the entire transformation project. So that's exactly what we should do here. Okay, so let's talk about AI because Louis talked about lots of generative AI. So people sometimes get a little bit confused, AI, analytic AI, generative AI, so it's all that type of AI. So let's focus on generative AI. That has the most potential, but also can be scary because sometimes we out of control. We do unsupervised learning. We don't know what happened. So let's talk about generative AI. How do you see the power and the limitation, and then how the brand, from brand perspective, how we should use generative AI?
It's a great question, and the slide that you're seeing behind me is kind of I'm not going to say a simple framework, but it's you really have to get back to kind of organizing for the journey. So generative AI, as even you showed in your use cases, it doesn't solve for all the problems.
Yes.
And so, as I mentioned before, is organizing a cross-functional team to identify what are you trying to solve for your customers, number one. What are you trying to differentiate with your brands, especially if you're coming from an enterprise with a multiple portfolio of brands. And then also, what are those guardrails, safety guardrails, because we're dealing with data, and we're dealing with consent, and we're dealing with consumers that are also discovering this technology for themselves. So you have to make sure that everything is secure and is consented. And then from that, as I mentioned before, you're starting to rank what you're trying to solve for. And in some cases, it might be generative AI when it comes to perhaps content volume, content production. It might mean generative AI for digital twins in terms of your packaging. So it might be that, or it might be basic foundational AI in terms of enhancing a recommendation engine.
Yeah, so that's exactly, you need to use the AI with a purpose. You need to know what you want to do, what you want to achieve. It's not everything is about generative AI. You can do foundation AI, you can do analytic AI. So also you talk about something very, very important is it's about the guardrail. So basically how we harness AI, put a guardrail, right? So something like a RAG and all kind of things. So that's exactly what we need to do. We cannot just let it running wild. Okay, so we need to have some control over this. Okay, so talk about this generative AI and all kind of thing. What do you see? Do some brave prediction. So if I have a crystal ball, right? So what we see in the next, usually we ask about 3-5 years, but 3-5 years for AI is too long. Probably in next 3-5 months or even like a year, what do you see for the AI?
I think if you go to the next slide, one of the things that we've been thinking about and we're having a discussion is, multimodal AI. So it's not just structured data, it's images, video, reviews. So it's structured data and unstructured data. And the opportunity to take all of this kind of multimodal inputs and create a path for your consumers to experience really hyper-personalization. One of the things that I call it is it's essentially a twin. Like maybe in the future, we're going to have this not like virtual try-on, but essentially virtual co-twin that it's our skin. It's our skin and our wellness and our being and what we want based on where we're traveling to, the next life stage. And so I think that there's this opportunity to have our own essentially multimodal agent out there completing tasks. Because as you know, generative AI, you have to prompt to get that answer. But with the promise of agentic AI is an autonomous being that's making decisions and completing tasks in behalf of you. Obviously, this would have to be secure, and you would have to consent, but the opportunity where you could have a very smart skin engine out there, or beauty engine, interacting with different brands, interacting with different retailers, interacting with different companies depending on what your life stage or your interests are, is really interesting to me.
Yes, I'm glad you bring this up because I was in another conference a couple of days ago. We talked about skincare, and then there's a question bringing up. It's like they didn't specifically talk about multi-model, but basically they said, okay, when you do skincare, did you consider like an environmental UV light and where are you location? So exactly just as with our demo, the demo said when I'm going to Egypt, right? But for the agentic AI, probably you don't need to tell them. Based on your itinerary, your recent purchase, they know you are going to Egypt. And then they start to combine everything together and then start give you the recommendation. Okay, the best skincare routine when you go into Egypt. You don't even need to talk about that. So that's, I believe, is very, very exciting about agentic AI and also the multi-model. Okay.
right now, I was traveling often for work, and I go back and forth from New York to Tokyo, but I was recently, I think last year, in Saudi Arabia, and I didn't know what to pack. And I had to go into an engine and prompt and say where I was going to be, but that's one dimension, right, of just travel. But if the systems existed where I opted in and it was secure, it would know a lot about me and what I purchased in the past, my preferences, what I like to eat. So it would really map out an entire experience journey. Mm-hmm. So, again, this slide, it's just something we had created, a very simple infographic, part of our university, where, it's generative, it's agentic, but now, the sky's the limit.
Yes.
Getting to AGI, which I don't think we'll get to yet, but it's really important, those boxes that are in dashes, it's really important that each one of us continues to educate ourselves as business people, as consumers, as people who want to make responsible change using this technology. What's next?
Yes, so basically that's what Perfect Corp is trying to offering. Because right now we see consumer is multi-dimensional. You are not just come here to buy a lipstick. You come here to get the best look. The look including lipsticks, including your skin, including your hair, even the accessory, everything. So multi-model. So right now we have all these ingredient together. We just need to have agentic AI. It's more like a chef. They put all ingredient together and then get the best dishes out there. So that's probably, next time when we see this, our forum, probably we will have agentic AI starting to put everything together, multi-model. It's very exciting. Okay, so we talk about so many exciting things, but what's next? We have an audience here, so some of them coming from mega brand, like Shiseido or Estee Lauder or this Coty. Some of them coming to mid-sized brand. Some of them are individual, indie brand. So what's your advice to our audience? Like how do you start an AI project?
I think starting again, it's about problem solving. It's how you're trying to really service your consumer or your prospects. And I just want to say, just observing the different types of categories of teams that are here. There are brands, but there's also medi-spas, dermatologists, people in fashion. I think the opportunity is really a cross-functional collective of people coming together, and we're trying to service our consumer throughout her life journey, not necessarily category. So I would say think out of category and think about that consumer in the center, and where you can partner with technology companies, life stage companies like yours, and what talent do you have internally to partner with companies like Perfect. So I would say, I think the future, the sky's the limit with this technology. It's dizzying. You have to be also very custodians of the data. And again, any type of artificial intelligence will not be successful without the core component that is data. And in beauty, I was asked a question recently about, how do we make sure that we're serving the consumer right? And that is making sure your data is clean. You're representing diverse data sets, because beauty is not monolithic. We need to service all consumers, and we have to make sure that we're not having, biased outcomes. And that is with obviously really understanding our data sets, being custodians of that data, and understanding what we're trying to solve for.
Yeah, diverse data type is very important. Otherwise, you become like a student graded their own test, this type of scenario. Yeah, so amazing conversation. So we can going on like this, it's keep on going. And then we actually start this conversation in the backstage, right before this one. So we have a limited time, but we know it's not easy to catch you. You're so busy, you're on the fly, flying here, there. So before we go, I'd like to ask you a question. Okay, we have so many people here, especially young women, female. So you are very successful in your career. And then you have an amazing, beautiful family. Okay, so last question before we go, I'd like to ask you not about AI, about human, about the career. Okay, so if you want to give any advice to our audience, they are maybe just start their career, maybe some student here, or in the mid-career. So give us some advice, especially from the perspective of a successful female executive.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I would say, and this is, I think everyone has heard this before, but I want to reiterate it. Stay curious, take opportunities as they interest you. In my 20s, I worked in documentary film and feature film production. And I did everything from wrangling, dogs in a park for a shoot that had to be a certain type of color for our Sesame Street shoot, to finding a satellite phone to drag into a shoot in the middle of the Dead Heart in Australia. I just problem solved through that, and I think through different experiences and staying curious, all of that kind of problem solving, all of those interactions with people helped me in my career as I work with global teams and help brands try to solve for problems that are sometimes technology based, sometimes they're marketing based, sometimes they're people and organizational based. So just stay curious, and any experience that you have builds upon the next.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Angelica. Thanks, everyone. So, yeah, so come to our, thank you.